with Amber, had an amazing coffee downtown, and just talked for like way too long to talk, especially on a work day and time. So don't tell anyone. But yeah, Amber was my first IRL friend outside of Vayner. So I'm crazy excited to have you here today, Amber.
Oh, awesome. And that relates to me doing some research because, I'm privy to NFT people in the space, but once the 137 came out featuring her, I like to put the on screen in the house, and I was playing it, and my kids were on their iGadgets. They're both under the age of, one was definitely playing the Elmo Potty game. And I was watching, and they stopped what they were doing and were just gravitated into the room. And the question is, who is that? And I didn't really know how to answer it except for like, oh, that's one of my friends. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, and they just, they're little kids, they drilled into it. And I'm like, someone who I've reached out to ask advice on, talk to about this space, and, someone who knows what they're doing in the space. And the one thing that they kept bringing is like the colors. And my daughter's really young, is just like rainbow. And it just seemed like she was just like magically just printing rainbows. And, maybe going to lead into my first, the first question here. But, we want to introduce, the person who is paving the way in the NFT space and who has made a name for herself, Amber Victoria. And, we want to, maybe describe your art a little bit better than how I describe it to my kids, as, she's just like almost just making rainbows with effortless brush strokes. But those, you're not so sensitive with it, and you work on that. And that's a lot of it is the hard work that you've put into it.
Wait. Okay, I totally want Amber to speak, but I prepared an intro that I was going to give really quick. So
hammer it. You got it.
Okay, ready? I'm going to go in my Twitter Spaces hosting voice. Today's guest is an emerging star. She's a Web3 artist who's had several NFT collections out there owned by people like Reese Witherspoon and Eva Longoria. She's collaborated with extensive lists of reputable brands like Gucci, The Hundreds, Chips Ahoy, and she's recently had a documentary short produced by 1:37 p.m. come out about her journey to Web3. Sorry, you can tell I'm reading, but I'm really excited about this one. But I want to point out 37's only other documentary short they've produced has been Beeple, so kind of a big deal. And Amber's just getting started. So we're going to talk today about art, success in Web3, collabs, but ultimately Amber's journey, because she's very open about her process and how it's not always easy. Okay, thanks for listening. Amber, hi. That was Nova's question. How would you describe the art you make?
That was awesome. First, can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Sometimes my AirPods just love to malfunction when I need them to function, so they're working. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I love those stories. And yeah, Leslie, I think that you were also my first Web3 friend outside of my husband, which is really fun. I remember like NFT NYC was happening, and I was like, well, crowds, I haven't done that in years, so let's just like hang out with cool people outside. So I was really glad that you guys said yes. That was really fun. But yeah, a little bit about me. My name's Amber Victoria. I'm an artist. I live and work in New York City, even though my husband and I are abandoning New York for the coast at the end of the year. We're both East Coasters, so we're like, life change, why not? But I am a painter and a poet, and my work focuses on celebrating the nuances of womanhood through abstracted ribbons of color. And the point behind all of my pieces is to create something that somebody else could relate to. So like a lot of times within art, I've struggled to see myself. So I try to make work that I can see myself in, and that I hope others can see themselves in as well.
So the style of art that you present, coming from college and having, having great teachers, shows you're patient in art. Can you talk about maybe the style of art and, the approach that you take when you, come to the easel, for lack of a better term, to, create a new piece?
Yeah, so I feel like not too dissimilar to other abstract artists. My work first started off figurative. So I wanted to make drawings and paintings of figures that I could relate to. I struggled seeing myself in advertising and then how women were painted in museums and galleries. And so I just wanted to make figures that I could see myself in, just because that helped my confidence. And then as I grew as an artist and as I grew as a person, those concepts became a bit more abstract. So it was less about self and more about my emotional self. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I have a few other physical health issues, and those things were kind of tough to put into a figure. So as time went on, the work itself became more abstract and started to reflect those emotional elements that I wanted to see in artwork that I could relate to as well. So over a period of time, that work slowly grew to be more abstracted. I was really fortunate that I went to Boston University's College of Fine Arts. I studied graphic design. And even though I don't firmly believe that you have to go to art school to be an artist, I just knew that that path was right for me. And the professors that I had were really incredible. They all had a very diverse range of styles. Some were super realistic and representational in their work. Others were very abstracted. And to have them teach you different elements of art making and thinking as an artist was really incredible, and definitely gave me the confidence to experiment and figure out who I was, and to know that that figuring out is a lifelong journey. So pretty fortunate to have had them as teachers.
Thank you so much for being so real about your journey too. I actually want to dive into the poetry part, because although you always mention you're an artist and a poet, so anyone who listens should know that. But I feel like people don't always think of poetry with you first. So I want to highlight, how did poetry come into your life, first of all? And then how does it play a role in your art? Do you see yourself equally a poet as you are a painter?
That's a great question. I feel like in my mind, as of now, I'm definitely a painter first. Poetry started to creep into my practice more heavily during the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, I was very, and still am, very thoughtful with the titles of the work that I would make. A lot of the titles of my early works are quite lengthy, and then eventually they started forming into shorter poems. And from there, as I painted, I would be inspired to write something about that painting, or vice versa. If I'm out, walking around in the city or in nature and something inspires me and I write a poem, then that might inspire a painting. So I feel like slowly and organically they started to tie together and be tethered. But during the pandemic, I feel like, and a lot of us can relate to this, we were all isolated. Things were, pretty grim. And I just decided to start sharing this poetry that I just had, written in my sketchbooks or written in Notes app on my phone. And I figured, may as well share it, because the only way we're really connecting with each other is through online. So may as well put it all out there. And I was really surprised and excited that so many people resonated with my written work as I did my paintings. And it was pretty funny, because in the beginning, people were like, you should tag a poet that you're sharing the poems from with your artwork. And I was like, I would if they were written by somebody else, but I wrote them. I was like, I try to tag people and give them credit when credit is due. So I thought that was pretty funny. But it was really exciting to see that it did resonate with so many people.
And then, I'm sorry, is that what you on the back of the physical pieces as well? Is that what I saw that was written on the back of the physical pieces?
So for that one, I did. That I think was just more for movie making. Because that one was done on wood, it's a little easier to write the back knowing that it's not gonna crease onto the front. For me, paintings that I do on paper, I don't write the poem in the back. But for folks that collect an NFT of mine, if it's an edition, the poems usually in the description and the metadata. And then for folks that buy the one of one, what I'll do, have it professionally framed, and then I put a little, well, I don't do it, the framer puts a little story pocket in the back, and I write a little note that has the poem with it as well. So they're able to, gain access to the poem that way.
I love it. The little personal touch. It's just, perfect.
Hey, so it's been really nice to see how people relate to both. Or sometimes when they'll see a painting and they see the poem, they're like, oh, that's really when it clicked for me. Or sometimes they interpret it differently. So it's always fun to have conversations with people, especially now as things become more in person again, about like how they interpret my work and how when they saw my own interpretation of my work, or how that shifted, how they felt about the piece. So that's the best part to me about art making, with the art making inside.
Can we put you on the spot? Will you read a poem to us?
Yeah, let me find one. I was just tweeting a collected a piece from a 3D artist that I was. Let me tweet this before I forget, because I know I'll forget this Friday. Yes, okay, hold on. Let me find one. And then I have like a Google Doc of all my poems. I'm like, I should probably back this up. What is a good one? Okay, so I'm working on a painting now. Or I just finished a painting that I just scanned in. Let's see if I could pin it so you can all see it as I read the poem. Give me like 2 seconds to try and find it. I tweet way too much, guys.
Not enough. Actually, we want to talk about that at some point today, how consistent you are in all of your work. Not just tweeting, everything. You're very consistent. So it's so Gary Vee style.
I mean, usually when I tweet, I'm like, wait, TMI, but like I'm either in line for coffee or like in a bathroom somewhere. So, let's see if I can share this.
And way to be productive,
When we tweet, a lot of times when we tweet, we're at work. So, I mean, do we get paid for that? Not sure, but we are trying to help promote the space here with D-Rob behind the mic at Vayner NFT and Cool Blue there. And yeah, we are pulling up some night there and a good morning. So yeah, that's the best time that we tweet is when we're times in with our friends, or sometimes by ourselves.
I love that. Okay, so I just pinned the video, actually, and the quote tweet of the video. But anyway, this is the video of the poem I'm going to read. It is called "If We Only Knew." It goes, "If we only knew to not worry about what others think, for they are occupied with themselves, not you." And that piece, I have to actually edit the final piece. That's why I'm like, why can't I find on Twitter? It's like, because you didn't edit the scanned version. That's why, Amber. That piece was really inspired by, I guess as of late, I feel like in the pandemic, we were all inside, and at least I stopped how other people viewed me, and that was really empowering. But as things started to open up again and we started to see each other in person, those fear, I guess, insecurities of how other people viewed me started to creep back. I never really properly addressed them. It's just the pandemic kind of put them away for a bit of time. And so this poem and this painting were built out of, or created out of, that insecurity. So just a reminder to myself that, everybody kind of, for better or worse, worries about themselves and how they present themselves to others. So, the little things that in your self-talk that might be more negative is something that only you're saying to yourself. And if you wouldn't say it to somebody else, then you should probably not say it to yourself. So that's what that is inspired by. But this is a good reminder. I have to edit this, edit the actual painting after we're done.
Love that. I have a question though, because you've done, well, I have many questions. First of all, we're here for it. But you've done a lot of collaborations, a lot of very successful ones. But for someone who is, who thinks about how other people see them, I mean, you do have such a signature style. But how do you decide then who to collaborate with? And how do you do it in a way that stays true to your style, the you that you do want people to see?
That's a great question. I would say that before NFTs, it was a bit tougher to say no, because that's how I made my income fully, was collaborations. And even though I sold prints and sometimes I sold original paintings, that was probably in my practice as a 3. So a lot of the time, even if it's something that wasn't a fit that I knew I could at least get some learning out of, I would still say yes to it and just know that it wouldn't be a portfolio piece. And I think that's something that a lot of, at least when I was in school, a lot of top graphic designers or painters or illustrators didn't really talk because sometimes you do have to take on work, to help pay your rent, to help pay the bills, but that work doesn't have to make it to your portfolio. So for me, it's more of a curation. I try to put out the work that, whether it's personal work or collaborations that I've done, that I to continue to get more of. And as I've grown, that has changed. So a lot of my collaborations that I've done years ago, even though I might love and enjoy them, that's no longer the type of work that I want to be making. So then I'll pull that down from my site. And that's probably another good reminder for me to do that again. But I think that's the most important thing, is curating what you want to see for the type of work you want to make in the future. So it's okay to say yes to a project that might not fully be on brand, so long that, you enjoy it and you get some learning out of it, and it helps pay the utilities, but you can curate and make sure that that doesn't happen repeatedly, so you're going down a path that feels right for you.
Was there like a pivotal step that was the catalyst? It could be NFTs, it could be Web3, but was there like a moment where you knew, like, hey, this full-time artist being a full-time artist, is my career. This is what I'm going to be going. Was there like a point where you just knew it, or an idea that you knew that, hey, this is what I'm forging forward with?
I knew since I was in college that I wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know what. So I didn't want to jump into freelance without really knowing what direction I wanted to go in. So I worked full time. I know you guys touched on it a little bit. As a web designer at Victoria's Secret, as a designer, then promoted to art director at Vayner Media. My last full-time job was at Avon as a web designer. And then after that, I started freelancing, which was about 5.5 years ago, which is wild. I feel like each time I say it, I'm like, ooh, we're getting real into the thick of freelance now. But I would say that at Vayner, when I was an art director at Vayner, and my creative director, Maggie, was like, can you illustrate this for me? And I was like, ooh, sure. That was really when I was like, oh yeah, this was the most enjoyable thing. And I did freelance work on the side when I worked at Vicar. It was slightly tougher to do at Vayner. I just feel like agency life had to be pretty flexible with your time. But at that point, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to make artwork for whether it's a publication or a brand. Like, this is really cool. So even though I didn't know fully what that looked like at that point in time, I knew that's where I wanted to go. So I learned at Vayner to apply it to sharing my work on social media and then getting freelance work that way. And then that's when I took the job at Avon, because it allowed for more proper 9 to 5. So it gave me time in the morning and in the evening to then build up that practice. And when I got to a point where I'm like, I think if I adjust my life, like maybe cut back on some frivolous expenses, I think I could live off of the freelance income itself, not freelance plus full-time. And so that's when I decided to take that leap into full-time freelance. But with that said, I was also very privileged to live with my now husband, my boyfriend at the time. Whereas, like, if we couldn't afford rent, or if I couldn't afford rent, I know that he could cover me. I don't have any children. I was healthier when I was 7, so I didn't have as many physical ailments I do now. So all of that really gave me the confidence to just take that leap. In worst case scenario, I would just go back and find a full-time job. So that was that moment. Slow little moments that added up over time.
And we've been doing this this week is like cooler discussions with friends within Vayner NFT, and then at NFT NYC, there again with a panel with Vayner NFT friends, because we're all very like-minded individuals. And you did talk about some of the challenges that were presented towards yourself that are still currently going, but knowing that the balancing work and side hustle stuff, sometimes you have to balance that out, especially in this Web3 space that a lot of people are trying to get acclimated to. Is there any other challenges that didn't expect that have, arrived, something that is, something that you're still doing and that you can express to others, because we're all still trying to figure this space out?
That's a great question. I would say in regards to Web3, I'm been a freelancer for so long, well, so long, relative, but long enough where selling my work in every space and then also collecting other people's artwork and being here and on Twitter and checking in and making friends and, being a part of and building my own community. It kind of just seamlessly integrated because I already have that flexibility as a freelancer. And I would say for folks that don't have that flexibility, like definitely give yourself grace. When I was doing freelance work I was definitely burning the candle at both ends. And that's probably really when I was like, okay, maybe, 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep a night is not great. So maybe we don't do a full-time job and then full-time in one day. So I would say that, listen to yourself. And if something feels like it's becoming too much, then you can kind of audit and see how you can pivot. I would say challenges freelancer have been, like developments in my health. I, in the last 5 years, developed a lot of severe allergies. I get allergy shots more than I would admit. I also have chronic migraine, which has gotten more chronic, I guess, more prevalent. So, also dealing with that. So I feel like balancing my health as a freelancer is also tough because, when you're not working, you aren't generating income and, there's a lot of uncertainty with that. So I think balancing all of that is definitely a challenge. But with that said, Web3 has given me the space to be able to take time off for myself. And every time that I've wanted to meet up with someone in this space or hold a meeting and I don't feel well and I have a bad migraine or, my allergies are flaring up or sometimes both, everyone in this space has been really understanding, which is incredible and I think rare because prior to this, a lot of people would not be super pleased if I had to cancel a meeting because I wasn't feeling well. So I don't know if that's because of the pandemic and now we're more all empathetic to people's physical health, but I would say that's also something that's really nice about this space is people view each other as people and not as, a commodity to profit off of. So I would say that's been really helpful too, to kind of help me balance myself as a person and then myself as an artist together.
I love how real you are, like talking about just anxiety, physical health, mental health, because that's what we're trying to do here on these Friendly Fridays is talk about these things because it's all relatable. And I remember, I think it was 2 Fridays back, I just told everyone at that time, I'm like, I'm not showing up to any more meetings. I just want to go play with my son. I had a long week at work and people are cool with it. And thank you for being real and being a spokeswoman and spokesperson. There are people listening that, maybe their outlet is just listening to us for this 25, 30, 40 minutes here and listening to real people talk about real things. So thank you for just being that friend again. Leslie, next question. I know you got a good one right here.
Yeah, I'm thinking like with so many challenges that come up, what do you tell yourself in order to overcome them?
I started therapy a year ago, probably mainly because I started to notice myself kind of having a disordered approach to eating after I found out I'm allergic to what feels like everything sometimes. But therapy really helped teach me to have grace with myself and to not worry too much about how they perceive me if I have to cancel on them or if I'm unable to deliver something on time. I also know how to build around that. So if I'm working on projects, I give myself ample time to work and deliver something. So even if I end up not feeling well for whatever reason, I rarely will miss a deadline because I know how to build that in for myself. So that's always really helpful too. Sometimes though, especially with in-person things, if I have a migraine, so I have vestibular migraines, and that just kind of means it feels like your brain is detached from your eyeballs. That's the best way to describe it. And everything's kind of off balance. Sometimes the room spins. Sometimes it's tough to stand and or walk. But I've done physical therapy to help build around that when I was younger. So that definitely plays into it. So when I do something in person and I have a migraine, I just tell myself okay, it's an hour of your time. You're teaching this class or you're going to interview, and yes, you're not going to be 100%, and you might sound kind of silly, but only you are going to notice that. And so I just give myself that grace, and if I have to push through, I will. But if I can put it off and give myself that time, I try to prioritize that first. So trial and error. I feel like as we all grow older, we learn more and more about ourselves, and ourselves change, and then we have to relearn a little bit more. Those are all coping mechanisms that either I've taught myself or that I've learned from therapy or from doctors and stuff. So that all kind of helps me get through. Being a freelancer allows that flexibility too. So I'm not having to show up and be on, quote unquote, in an office every day. And I think that's also really helpful as well.
Is that something similar to what you would maybe say to yourself back in the moment when you were first contemplating taking the leap? Or is there anything different that you would say? Because I imagine that being a really scary time too, like a huge change that's about to happen. What would you tell yourself if you could talk to yourself like in that moment today?
I remember we were actually on vacation in San Francisco, and I looked at Dave's like, yeah, I'm gonna quit my job when we get home. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's time. And he's like, okay, great. But I remember being super nervous and just reaching out to everyone I know, being like, I'm available for freelance. But I would tell myself that yeah, it'll work out. You'll be fine. And I think I told myself that then, but I didn't realize how quickly it would work out. So I'm pretty fortunate that it has. But that's what I would tell myself, you'll be okay.
You did have a lot of success. I don't know if it's just from outside or by my definition. After all the success that you've already built, this is what we were talking about earlier. You still stay incredibly consistent and hardworking. I always see you on social, always see your tweets. Also on Instagram, though, you're creating and documenting and uplifting others. And you're on Twitter Spaces now, and you're always painting. And what are you still working so hard for? What are you working toward?
And it's so funny that you say that I work hard, because Dave's downstairs. We live in a small apartment, so our bed's lofted, so I'm on our bed taking this call. But Dave actually, and you guys too, anyone that works at Vayner works super hard. So anything in comparison, not that bad. So for me, I'm I don't work that hard. I love going on Twitter. I don't view this work, even though it is labor. Painting, I've definitely slowed down in painting a little bit, just because I did notice myself getting stressed about my own paintings. I'm well, that's not good. So I try to, ebb and flow with my energy levels. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I think working at Vayner, after making content for other brands, when you talk about it, 1,000 times more easy, because you've talked about other companies using social media. So I think that really, but I don't really think I work that hard. Especially over the summer times when everyone else is on vacation and not that much freelance work comes in. That's probably why I'm on Twitter so much, because I'm well, I don't have much else to do other than sit out and be on the internet. So, but I appreciate that. That's very flattering. I just tell people I try to put as much of my stuff everywhere and connect with as many people as I can, and hopefully that'll the work will do the work for me. If that makes sense.
It's true. It does feel like Vayner kind of whips people into shape sometimes. So totally see that.
Yeah. I would say the one thing that I don't like to brag, but I am very good at Google Calendars. And when I mess up a Google Calendar, I'm very hard on myself. If I miss a meeting, I'm what? I use my calendar for, and that is because of Vayner. My calendar, I don't know what I used to do before using Google at Vayner. I used to write things in a notebook. I don't understand how that happens, but yeah, I'm very good at Google Calendars, and that's 100% working at Vayner.
I'll piggyback off that. I have great friends, including Piper and Cool Blue, who told me everything about Google Calendars. I was a teacher. I was a gym teacher, so I'd have a set schedule, which is pretty much a piece of that I'd use the whole year. I did not even own a computer. And Google Calendar or any type of organizational that way is key. And I have had to have a fast track on that. So thank you to my wonderful coworkers, including D-Rob, on that.
I too. I was all right, get good at Google Calendar. or get bad at your job. Like that's how I saw it.
It's so true, but like, and even like, and it's funny too, because like, I think I was showing, I forget who I was showing my calendar. Do you block off like exercising and going for a walk? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, doesn't that make your day feel transactional? It's like, no, I could change it if I want to change my own things. I was like, but it's the best way I know how to do it to do this without overwhelming myself, which is probably why I don't feel like I do too much work, because I've gotten at planning and knowing how long things take me, and that's definitely a credit to working in a very organized, well-oiled machine they've got going over there.
And Nova, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say there are non-negotiables that Leslie Cool Blue talked about, like exercising, walking the dog, just setting up a lunch, just putting that in there can help organize that. And Amber, you've been a breath of fresh air. At one point you were saying that, you're talking about just like stepping back and taking time for yourself. That's very important in this, because sometimes it's rush, 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 but it's kind of like rush to wait in line. So, sometimes you got to take a step back, relax, take care of yourself, because then you can get a better approach of, even if it is slowing down what you're so passionate about. It's all right to take a different vantage point and learn. And you have a great student, since I've heard you're always praising that people have educated you, but then at the same time, you're a great teacher, and just being who you are. And that's why I believe you're in the position you are of being a strong spokesperson for this NFT space. So please continue contributing in the positive manner you're doing, because I enjoy the colors that you bring to life. And it's not only through that, but it's through your words and wisdom as well. So thank you on this Friendly Friday, leading into a wonderful weekend. And we have some crazy, awesome stuff going on at Vayner next week. We have our on-site, we'll give hugs and handshakes to all the aliens, apes, and zombies we haven't been able to meet in person around the water cooler. So it is kind of coming full circle for us as well with you, where we are going to be meeting there at Hards in the Hub, very similar to where you have started your journey.
Yeah. And okay, well, I have classic last question. but yeah, I mean, to Novo's point, I stole when I walk my dog, so that people know, like, I have to walk my dog at that time. And to Novo's point, next week there's a lot of stuff happening. We'll be posting about it, really, really exciting things. But that means this week was very tough at Vayner. So even though it was tough, this morning I did hot yoga. I was just like, you just have to. This is how you get through it, and I put it on my calendar. But great points. So for our last question, what does success look like for you in the future? I know we talked about what you're working toward now, but do you have a vision of what that looks like, what your step looks like?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say how I define success, at least within my own world, is to be happy with what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be everything, not everybody likes making the doctor's appointments and doing all that stuff, but it's either being happy doing something that I'm working on, or doing something, so like going to the doctor or doing therapy, that will help me maintain that happiness. So that's success for me, to be able to create the time and the space for myself. I feel like a lot of times I've deprioritized myself for others, and I think keeping myself as a priority is important. So success for me. Next steps, I guess, personally, we're moving to LA, which I'm very excited about. Everyone that I say this to laughs. I was like, yeah, we want a little more space, and it, like for it to be, slightly more affordable. And they're like, only a fucking New Yorker would say that about Los Angeles. And I was like, yes, well, if you saw the 2x4 we lived in, you would understand. So I'm really excited. A little bit more space, to be closer to nature. My goal is to see all the United States national parks. I've seen like almost 30 of them. And LA put you in shooting distance of a lot of them, which is really exciting for me. So that's probably my next step, and hopefully that will help, impact my art practice in a way that can only imagine it would be positive. So, yep.
Amazing. Crypto Novo. Want to close it out?
D-Rob, before we do close it out, they're from the Vayner account.
I mean, you know me, I always love my silly last questions to end off on a good note. So I'll do that for the three of you right now. I mean, I already know what Leslie's answer is going to be. But for all three of you up here, if
Why me?
Well, you'll see. Well, you'll see in a second. If Crayola hired you as a freelancer to create the next color for them, what would you name it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool blue.
I want this job. Crypto Nova, you could go first, but I just want to say I want this job. Let's make that real.
Mine would, I just love like almost the color rainbow, but there's also an NFT artist called Broken Crayons. So it would be Broken Crayons color. It would be all the shards and tidbits and shavings of the crayons put together. So when it comes out, it looks like a rainbow. So Broken Crayons is my color.
I also want that crayon. Mine's going to be the least original, but I would make one that's called Vittoria, and it would be amber colored.
Amazing. Great answers all around. Love those.
Love them too. They could be bear paint colors too. Maybe we have some connections there. We'll toss that in the hopper at our strategies next meeting right there. Again, I want to thank the hostess with the mostest, Cool Blue, and D-Rob. You guys crushed it this week. You guys crushed it at Vayner NFT, at NFT NYC, at all the Lincolns that Vayner was at. Thank you for keeping me organized. It is a group and team effort here at Vayner. Yeah, we are on work. We are on the clock, but at the same token, we are presenting the latest and the greatest to the ones listening. And, you know, what Amber Victoria has done, you know, not only through her journey, but is going to continue to do, has been inspirational and has been real and has been in the focus, not only for us, but others for that genuine purpose of she's a genuine person. So, Cool Blue, anything else to say on this Friendly Friday? Amber, anything else to say?
No, just thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining, Amber. We also have a special announcement. So, Amber, you have a project launching soon.
I saw this in the notes, and I've been hesitant to bring it up because I didn't know if it was true or not. This is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I saw it in the notes, and I was kind of like waiting on it.
I forgot completely. Like, thank you all. Good night. And then, like, wait a second. Yeah, I guess I could speak of it. So, next Friday, miss me panicking. I am dropping a collection of 999 one-of-one pieces. It is entitled Memories of a Masterpiece, and each piece leverages hand-cut paper that I placed or had dropped on my scanner, and then I would scan them in and then wipe the scanner and then or different pieces of paper to create different one-of-ones. And the idea behind it was a bit inspired by generative artwork, but then also inspired by how can I make something physically that only will be able to live on chain. So memories of a masterpiece is what came to mind. Having work that I made by hand, only lived digitally, was something that was really inspiring. I feel like similar to that of our lives, you know, our past and our histories are usually only lived on through stories and, you know, in more modern day age, video and photo. So I wanted to kind of play into that theme. Anyway, long short of it is once that mints, somebody will be getting one for free, but Leslie could speak to the details because I forgot that this was even happening. That's Friday for you.
I mean, we can leave it at that. We're going to give away a special piece of Amber Victoria artwork to somebody in this space or listening to the space. So yeah, of course, follow Amber, because if not, that would be awkward. And follow us because we'll tell you when it is and who is getting what. So thank you so much to everyone who is here today, especially Miss Amber Victoria herself. Thanks so much for being here. This was one of my absolute favorite spaces. So thank you for your time, listeners and speakers, D-Rob, Crypto Novo, and Crypto Novo has my favorite closing. So we'll leave it to him to put in the last words.
Just want to wish everyone a friendly Friday and stay positive and love life. Peace. Thank you again, Amber. You're the best. Peace.